Hey guys, Chris of the Polish Geek, and welcome to another movie review. The review of a new murder mystery, The Sheep Detectives. And I have to say, I had such a great time with the movie. I enjoyed it so much, which is interesting because this is a perfect example of the movie that on paper completely shouldn't have worked, and yet it worked so well, which once again shows what I've been often saying on this channel. Like, it doesn't matter how the basic premise sounds, if you have creators that actually put care and work into the project to actually make something good that the audiences will enjoy, then this is what you get. What I like about The Sheep Detectives is that it's a really enjoyable, entertaining family movie that I think whole family can enjoy, especially that murder mysteries is a type of genre that most kids will likely not understand, but I think that if you ever want to introduce your kids to a good murder mystery, then I think The Sheep Detectives would be a perfect starting point. Basically, the premise is that there is this shepherd named George, played excellently by Hugh Jackman, who has, obviously as a shepherd, he has sheep and he looks after them and all in some village in England, and then he gets murdered. And the sheep see his dead body, and then they're the ones that decide to solve his murder mystery and figure out who murdered him. And then, but it's not just the sheep actually, there are also the humans in town, this police officer actually, who is investigating the murder as well, which is also sort of his character arc, because he actually complains that there never is any murder in town or any serious crime, so now that there is a murder, he actually uses it as an opportunity that he can actually start working and actually do something as a police officer, which again makes sort of an interesting character arc of his actually. And then there are those two stories. You have the sheep actually trying to solve the murder, and then you have the humans as well. And that creates some really interesting dynamic. And yes, it is pretty predictable and formulaic actually, but then again, as I said, it's a murder mystery basically for kids, so you gotta kind of make it pretty simple actually, because once again, it's a pretty much an introductory way for kids to a murder mystery, so you kind of have to keep it simple and formulaic actually, because it's a very much an entry-level murder mystery movie, which doesn't mean that it doesn't work, quite the opposite. That's actually why it works so well. If anything, if the creators try to make everything basically too overly complicated just for the sake of shock value and lack of predictability, then it could really mess up with the story. By basically keeping it formulaic, that's what actually keeps it engaging, simple, and why it makes such a perfect sense. And what's interesting is that the sheep actually do talk in this movie, but the movie does a really good job of actually separating the human world from the sheep world, in which the sheep speak like humans, but they interact with each other actually, while the humans can understand them. And I think this is actually the best way to do it in live action movies when it comes to animals interacting with each other. Keep the animal world and the human world separate. Although I admittedly watched the movie in Polish, so I can't really say how I felt about the original voice actors, but I think the Polish voice actors that voice the sheep were really good actually, because sadly, my local theater sadly wasn't playing the movie in English. Like, there's no available English version for some reason, my local theater, hence why I had to go with the Polish version. But yeah, when I have an opportunity, I'll gladly watch it again in the original English. So as I said, I found the murder mystery kinda predictable actually, and like in the last act of the movie I very much was betting who was the murderer, but I'm not getting any further into it, because even if I found it predictable and see lots of people finding it predictable as well and pretty formulaic, I still feel that this is like still better if you experience it for yourself. So I'm not talking anymore about the murder mystery. Like, that's actually one of the biggest problems with reviewing murder mystery movies. You can't really get much into details because you always risk giving away spoilers, and that's why I'm not talking anymore about the murder mystery. Just will tell you again that I like how there are those two stories of animals and humans, and it was all pretty interesting with characters having great chemistry with each other, and it all worked so well. But also I will say that there was an anti-racist message in the movie, which did not overpower the movie with messaging or anything. If anything, it served as a nice side story that ultimately didn't have a much effect on the story, but could actually be seen as a positive message for the kids of accepting people who are different. And yes, there was also sort of vegan message with one of the characters that this shepherd George didn't get along was a butcher with his own farm of the sheep that he uses to kill to make meat. And yeah, you could see a sort of a vegan anti-meat eating message, but thankfully it didn't overpower the story. But one thing is certain, while it did ultimately serve the narrative well, I think one thing is certain: I'm not stopping eating meat. I love meat. Meat is delicious, especially steak. A bloody, juicy, rare steak. Oh my gosh, so tasty. So you betcha I'm not ever quitting eating meat. Actually, and in fact, when I visited Scotland once, I ate haggis as well, also really delicious. So you betcha I'm not ever quitting on eating meat. I love meat. But at the same time, this whole story of the butcher and the sheep, basically, that's what it did serve a narrative purpose, and it was overall interesting, even if once again I'm not ever getting rid of my desire to eat meat. Meat is too delicious. But overall, the Sheep Detectives absolutely know why it works so well, but yet it does, which once again shows that if you have people who actually care, to actually put some effort into their work, then this is what you get. And also, the Sheep Detectives, I think, is a really nice callback to the old days where there are so many good, engaging, interesting movies that whole family can enjoy. Like, because the Sheep Detectives is very much a kids movie that I think adults will enjoy as well. Once again, it's a family movie for the whole family to enjoy. Like, this is another genre that's very much missing these days. So that's another reason why the Sheep Detectives was such a nice and welcome change of pace. Overall, I think if you have kids, you should absolutely take them to see the Sheep Detectives. And if you want your kids to introduce them to murder mystery, then I think the Sheep Detectives is just perfect for that. Again, I didn't expect to have such a good time with this movie as much as I did, but I did, and I very much recommend that, especially also if you are very much hungry for some feel-good family movie. The Sheep Detectives is very much that. Again, it's basically a combination of a feel-good family movie with a murder mystery, and it all feels so natural and perfectly consistent. So, once again, the Sheep Detectives had no right to be this good, but it was, and I had a really great time with it. So, thank you all of you for checking out this review. Press the like button, please subscribe this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you soon, bye!